As Karina left her room, she thought about visiting the doctor once more before she leaves for good. She met the family doctor near the stairs. Nocturne was the family doctor, but he usually took care of Leah. After they shared greetings, she asked him why he was here, to which he responded, "Ah, Leah, no, it's Lady Abelia's health check." Karina was shocked at how intimately he called out Leah's nickname. She once had feelings for him, but she quickly stomped them out when she realized Nocturne only ever gazed at Abelia. It could be because Leah shared similarities with his younger sister who died, but she was uncertain if that was all. As she passed him, he asked if she was okay because she looked pale. He suggested she get a checkup with Leah, but she quickly declined in a cold tone. Just then, Karina heard Abelia shout out, "Sister!" in an excited voice, just as she launched herself of the top stairs right into Karina's arms. Nocturne scolded her in a gentle tone and told her that doing that was dangerous. She apologized as she said she was just so happy to see her sister. She asked Karina where she was headed to, but Karina told her not to worry about it and to go do her checkup with Nocturne. But she insisted on going out with Karina because she felt much better. As Karina struggled to say no, Nocturne spoke up and told Leah not to bother her as Karina might be busy. Leah said sadly that Karina must be so happy being able to go out every day. Karina's anger shot up, thinking about how she was never able to go out or make any friends because of Abelia's attachment. The times her mother would come in and scold her for naughty acts she didn't do. Abelia would blame her, and her mother would always believe Leah over Karina. No matter what she said, her words would just be ignored in favor of Abelia's. When her birthday party got pushed aside for Enfrika's graduation, or when her tea parties got canceled because Abelia got sick, she always compromised. "It's okay. I'm okay," she would always respond. She was never a priority. Gradually, the number of Karina's paintings increased each time this happened. She realized then that her paintings only came to life when she felt extreme emotions, when she was at her saddest. Her paintings would last for an hour, sometimes a day at most. Compared to the family that never turned around to look at her, no matter how much she called out to them, she liked the animals she drew much more. They comforted her when she needed it most. Sometimes her paintings would come to life as friends she could speak and tell stories to. She didn't realize at the time that the more she drew, the shorter her lifespan became. She just thought about never being alone again. Just as she was about to leave, Abelia called out to her and told Karina to buy something delicious for her. As she walked out, she felt disgusted with herself for being jealous over her younger sister. She visited the doctor and told him she needed medicine because she was leaving and would not be returning. She needed medicine that would help her survive the long, hard journey because she planned to go to Xantar, a place on the edge of the north. After Karina got her medicine, she bought meat skewers and returned home. There she met Peridot. She gave him the skewers and told him to go eat it with Abelia. He thanked her and ran up the stairs excitedly. Karina was asleep when her father barged into her room, extremely angry. He asked her if she bought street food for Abelia. When she said yes in a calm tone, he looked annoyed. He told her that Abelia couldn't eat any food carelessly and that she vomited after she ate the skewers. Her mother stepped up from behind him and told Karina that, as an adult and as the older sister, she shouldn't be so careless. She tried to explain that she only did what Leah asked for, but her father shouted, "Stop making excuses!" She tried to hold it in like all the other times, but then she said in a cold, detached tone, "So what are you going to do about it?" Why did she always have to hold it in? Her father, shocked at what she just said, questioned her about her disrespectful tone. He was surprised because Karina never answered back like this before. She explained that she only did as Abelia requested and that Abelia supposed to know what foods she couldn't eat. She expressed her opinion in a calm tone. As they left her room, her father told her that while she may have some complaints, at least she was healthy and to be more understanding next time. Karina kept silent, but she was so hurt with their unfair treatment. It wasn't a sin to be born healthy, and she wasn't the only one that was healthy. Enfrik and Peridot was too, but why did they treat her so different? Why must she always be the one to make sacrifices? As Karina cried, she looked at her painting, and her eyes glowed golden. Her fairy friend came alive and flew towards her, comforting her. She didn't need anything else other than this. She didn't care if her life was shortened. She needed this as much as she needed air. Karina stood in front of the dining hall. She hadn't seen her parents since the incident occurred in her room. The twins came to apologize, but she didn't blame them. They were young, and she loved them regardless of what happened. But today was to be her last dinner with her family, because she planned to leave soon. As she sat at the table thinking about eating something light, her father cleared his throat awkwardly. He reminded her that her birthday was in 2 days, and he wanted to postpone it so that they could go on a family picnic, since Enfric happened to be on vacation as well. She told him to do as he wished, but she wouldn't be able to attend. With that, she excused herself and left the dining hall. As she walked out, she felt extreme heartache. Could her last memory with her family be any worse? She thought she'd already felt the most disappointment she could, but they just added more. She sat in the bath, glad that the Duke didn't kick her out. She looked at her medicine, which the doctor told her to stop taking once it got down to 3 pills, and when she did, she'd come down with a big fever. That meant tonight, the fever would come. As she walked into the Duke's office, she noticed the strong smell of ink and paper. She sat with him in the lounging area, and then he demanded she tell him why she traveled so far. As she kept silent, he told her the inconvenience of her arrival because it was the start of winter, and this brought out numerous magical beasts. He would be extremely busy and would not have time to care for her. She readily agreed, happy that he wouldn't give her any attention. She assured him she wouldn't be going out, so she'd be safe in a separate annex. With that, she thanked him and left the room, feeling dizzy. The fever had begun. She laid in her room, wrapped in bundles of blankets, but still feeling the bitter cold. She left, lantern in hand, and headed to the kitchen. She needed a kettle and water for the fever. As she walked down the quiet, dark hallway, she bumped into the Duke. She shouted out, scared. He came to check up on her. As he gazed at her, her eyes flitted around nervously. He grabbed her hand and pulled her into the light, disorderly breathing, flushed cheeks, and a trembling voice. She had a high fever. He scolded her about keeping quiet and that she shouldn't endure these things. He didn't know that this was what Karina always did because she was ignored in the Leopold residence. He held out 2 fingers and questioned her, testing her gaze. She answered confidently, 3 fingers, but not trusting her doubled eyesight. He stood, silent and confused, but then grabbed her, lifted her into his arms, and took her to the main building. This annex was not fit for a patient. She nodded off in his arms, but not before she mumbled quietly, "No doctors." He sat quietly as he looked at her sleeping form and wondered what she so desperately tried to hide. 2 months ago, her family found out she left. One of the maids handed the letter she left to the Count. Only a single sentence was written. "I'm going on a trip." They all hadn't seen Karina for a few days. Enfric suggested she might have been hurt because they postponed her birthday party for the picnic, but the Count brushed it off as a childish tantrum and that she would return within the week. She'd be gone for 2 at most. Sometime after, they got news that she was last seen boarding a carriage going to the capital. The Count was furious. How could she tarnish the Leopold name like this? If word got out, he'd become a laughingstock. It didn't make sense that she'd run away because of a mere birthday party. She led such a privileged life. She never went through any hardships. Was it because she didn't receive enough pocket change? The Countess commented as she said, Abelia might be young, but she was much more mature than Karina. As Karina awoke, she saw the Duke sitting near her bed, going through some documents. She was surprised. She never thought that he would stay by her side. He not only did that, but he looked after her well into the early hours of the morning, because he promised her that he wouldn't call a doctor. He admitted, embarrassingly, that this was his first time taking care of anyone. It was also her first time being cared for, to such an extent when she got sick. As she mentioned the medicine in her bag, he got up to go get it, but she suddenly grabbed his hand. He blushed, but remained silent. She told him she didn't want the medicine, and he scolded her lightly. She was still extremely feverish, so he told her to sleep some more. She questioned him with a sad, childlike tone. "If I sleep, will you leave?" Still holding her hand, he promised to stay until she fell asleep. She felt weak and her vision blackened out, but she continued to smile because of the warmth of the hand she held. It was like receiving an early birthday present.